What's going on, you guys? It's Rahul here, back again with another video, and today I am here with my top 10 edge rushers in the NFL right now. And before this video does get started, I do want to say a few things. One, this is a disclaimer. When I say edge rushers, I mean 4-3 edge rushers and 3-4 outside linebackers, since in my mind, they sort of play the same position. Second off, make sure to go ahead and check out my podcast if you guys haven't already. If you guys want to get more content from me, go ahead and check it out. The link to it is in the description below. I will upload there like weekly, so yeah, go ahead and check it out. But without further ado, let's get this video started. And at number 10, we have Brian Burns of the Carolina Panthers. Brian Burns has had an awesome start to his young NFL career. In 2019, which was his rookie season, he had 7.5 sacks, and in 2020, which was last season, he really improved as a player. And Brian Burns is a massive part of a young and rising Carolina Panthers defense. And in a couple of years, I do think the Carolina Panthers defense is going to be really good, and Brian Burns, he will be a massive part of it. He's really good at rushing the quarterback, really good at stopping the run, and also good at getting pressure on the quarterback. And last season, he had 9 sacks, 3 forced fumbles, 8 tackles for a loss, and 37 pressures. And to make his stats and his play even more impressive, first off, his front 7 help was just not very good. And I gotta say, with the addition of Hassan Reddick, and as Brian Burns naturally improves as a player, and guys like Derek Brown also improve, I have no doubt in my mind that next year Brian Burns will have double-digit sacks, and I definitely think he's gonna rise on this list when I make it next year. And Brian Burns, simply put, he's an awesome player, and he could have an amazing season in 2021, and who knows, maybe has an all-pro caliber season. Anyways, but up next at number 9, we have Von Miller of the Denver Broncos. Von Miller, he might be getting up there in age, and unfortunately, he missed all of 2020 due to an injury. Despite that, Von Miller, he still makes my list, since when he's healthy, he is one of the best edge rushers in the NFL, simply put, when he's on the field, the guy is going to get you at least 11 sacks. He's just so freaking good. And if he's not on your top 10 because of the injury and all, that is understandable, because injuries, you never know how he's going to bounce back, especially when you consider that Von Miller is on the wrong side of 30. But that doesn't change the fact that Von Miller is an awesome player when he's on the field, and I still have him on my list due to the fact that when he's on the field, simply put, he's awesome, as I said before. And Denver's defense next year, I think it's going to be scary, and Von Miller, we all know he's going to be a massive part of it. Up next at number 8, we have Shaq Barrett of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Shaq Barrett on the Denver Broncos was known as just an okay player, nothing much, but on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, he's emerged as one of the best pass rushers and edge rushers really in the NFL. In 2019, he led the league in sacks, and in 2020, while he didn't exactly have as good of a 2019 season, he was still really good, and I gotta say, that 2019 season was so good to the point where, it's hard to sustain that type of production, so you can't completely fault him for not being able to put up 19 sacks, in 2020. Shaq Barrett, he's a really good player, and he was a massive part of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers run to the Super Bowl. And if they do repeat, Shaq Barrett's going to be a massive part of it. And simply put, if he was not on that Buccaneers team, I don't know if they would win the Super Bowl. Now, I will say he does play on a pretty talented front 7, and that certainly helps him, but Shaq Barrett is still a really good player. And last season, he had 8 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, 11 tackles for a loss, and 42 pressures. At number 7, we have Zadarius Smith of the Green Bay Packers. Zadarius Smith has emerged as one of the best edge rushers in the game when he arrived on the Green Bay Packers. In 2 seasons there, he's put up over 12 sacks in each of them. And while, that is a pretty small sample size, that he's still a really good player, and he's a massive part of Green Bay's defense. And the Packers defense, it is really good. And I will admit, his front 7 help has never been elite or anything like that. Kenny Clark, he's pretty good, and Preston Smith was good in 2019, except 2020 he had a pretty big down season, but Zadarius Smith, simply put, is an awesome player. And last year he had 12.5 sacks, 4 forced fumbles, 12 tackles for a loss, and 39 pressures. The Packers in 2021 are gonna have one last run. I'm guessing they're gonna have just one last run at the Super Bowl, and if they do end up winning it, Zadarius Smith, I think he's gonna be a massive part of it, and honestly, I think he's gonna be a massive part if the Packers do have another successful season. At number 6, we have Joey Bosa of the Los Angeles Chargers. Joey Bosa last season, he didn't have his best statistical year, but to be fair to him, he was struggling with injuries, and I mean, his front 7 help wasn't exactly elite, so you can't completely fault him. And even then, Joey Bosa was still really good in the games in which he did play. When he's on the field, Joey Bosa is an awesome player. Next year, I think he's going to have a really good season, like at least 11 sacks in my opinion. Joey Bosa is just that good, especially if some guys break out, because if they break out, and Joey Bosa, I mean, hey, he doesn't have to, doesn't have as big of a workload, and, he won't be as fatigued and all that stuff. Joey Bosa is just a great player, and last season, it may have not been his best statistical season, but he was still really good. Next year, I do think Joey Bosa is going to have a great season, especially, with Brandon Staley being there, because Brandon Staley is a fantastic defensive mind, and I think he's going to have a lot of fun using Joey Bosa on that Los Angeles Chargers defense. But nonetheless, last year he had 7.5 sacks, 45 pressures, and 15 tackles for a loss. Making our way into the top 5, we have Danielle Hunter of the Minnesota Vikings. Danielle Hunter, he has been absolutely elite over his past few healthy seasons. Now, he didn't play in 2020, unfortunately, due to an injury. However, in 2018 and 2019, he had 14.5 sacks in each of them. And I mean, it went under the radar. And Danielle Hunter, I mean, simply put, is an amazing player. And as I said before, he didn't play in 2020, but in 2021, I think he's going to have another amazing season. And I mean, he's going to have a Pro Bowl caliber year and maybe an All-Pro caliber year. And I mean, I think he will remind the league, just how good he is. Now, maybe he doesn't have 14.5 sacks, but I definitely think he's going to have at least 11 sacks. And Danielle Hunter is just an awesome player, And I mean, hopefully the Vikings defense does improve a little bit. I mean, I'm sure they missed Danielle Hunter last season, and honestly, Danielle Hunter, he's going to help out that Vikings defense so much, and he is really underrated, to put it simply. At number 4, we have Chandler Jones of the Arizona Cardinals. You know how much I love Chandler Jones. If you've followed this channel for some time, you know how much I love Chandler Jones. He is one of my favorite players in the NFL. Now, I went over him in a previous video, so I guess I'll try and keep this segment kind of short, but Chandler Jones has put up elite numbers for a while, but he hasn't gotten a lot of recognition due to the fact that the Arizona Cardinals haven't had a lot of success, while he's been there. Now, he hardly played in 2020, but I think he's going to have a great season in 2021, especially with the addition of JJ Watt, and I mean that's really going to help, take the workload off of him. And Chandler Jones, in my opinion, he's going to have another really good season with the Arizona Cardinals. Like in 2019, he had 19 sacks and was just half a sack away from being the league leader in sacks, well, at least tying Shaq Barrett. And in 2017, he led the league in sacks, if I'm not mistaken. And Chandler Jones, he is an elite pass rusher, and he did request a trade. I don't know, I'm not sure if he's gonna get traded or not, but that doesn't change the fact that Chandler Jones is an amazing player. At number 3, we have Khalil Mack of the Chicago Bears. Khalil Mack might be getting a little bit up there in age, and his stats may not be eye-popping, but he is still an elite player. Do not get it twisted. His numbers are still decently impressive, and when you watch him, you can see his impact and why he is still viewed as an elite edge rusher. He gets consistent pressure on the quarterback despite a ton of double teams being thrown at him, and I got to admit, there are some holding calls, a lot of times guys hold him, and it's not called. And Khalil Mack, simply put, is just an amazing player. If you watch him, you can see his impact. And was it this past season, I think he was dealing with injuries or something like that. I might be wrong there, but Khalil Mack, that doesn't change the fact that he's an awesome player. Next season, maybe his stats are very impressive. And last year, he had 9 sacks, 3 forced fumbles, 31 pressures, and 11 tackles for a loss. Our runner-up is Myles Garrett of the Cleveland Browns. Myles Garrett was amazing last season. He was an All-Pro in 2020, and to make his play even more impressive, on defense, especially, well, I guess it's not especially on the front 7, but his defensive help overall was just not very good. On the front 7, it wasn't awesome. Olivier Vernon was pretty decent, but for the most part, Myles Garrett didn't have an amazing help, but he still had an All-Pro caliber season. And next year, I think there's a very real possibility he wins Defensive Player of the Year and he leads the league in sacks. And last season, he had 12 sacks, 4 forced fumbles, 32 pressures, and 10 tackles for a loss. And at number 1, we got TJ Watt. TJ Watt, he led the NFL in sacks and tackles for a loss. And this dude was a beast last season, you know. And you can say that he should have won Defensive Player of the Year. Personally, I think he kind of should have. I mean, it could have gone either way. I picked TJ Watt to win it, but I mean, you could make the case that he really should have won it. And next year, I think you can argue that he is the favorite to win Defensive Player of the Year. And this past season, he had 15 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, 61 pressures, and 23 tackles for a loss. TJ Watt, he's a beast. But without further ado, that is going to be the end of today's video. If you guys enjoyed, make sure to hit that like button as it really helps out the channel. And also make sure to subscribe if you guys are new and you guys enjoy this type of content, so you don't miss out on any new videos like this. Plus, we're on the road to 1,000 subscribers. And once we hit our goal, I am finally going to do a face reveal. Thank you guys so much for watching. But with that being said, I'm out, you guys.